Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to day 3 of this Muharram series. Our topic for today is about how Karbala teaches us the importance of prayers and worship. So we've seen in the last two talks that Imam Hussein, he rose up against Yazid and he stood against him because he wanted to save the religion of Islam, right? So Imam Hussein, he didn't sacrifice everything that he had, or he didn't stand up against Yazid in Karbala because he wanted money or power, right? He only stood up against him because he wanted to save the religion of Islam. And one of the main goals of Karbala was to highlight the importance of performing the daily obligatory salah. So what does salah mean? Maybe you've heard of that word, and maybe you haven't, but salah is basically prayer or namaz, right? So they all mean the same thing. Prayers, namaz, salah, right? They're all the same thing. And we have 5 obligatory salah that we have to pray every day. That's what obligatory means. Obligatory means wajib, right? So that you have to do it. So there are 5 prayers that you have to pray every day. Do you know what the names of these prayers are? So we've got 5, right? So 5 daily prayers. First one is Fajr. Then we have Zohar and Asr. And then we have Maghrib and Isha, right? So these are the 5 prayers that we must pray every day. And Imam Hussein, he really wanted to emphasize the importance of these prayers in Karbala. And not only Imam Hussein, everybody who was with him, his family, his companions, they all showed us how important prayers were to them in Karbala. And we look at that today. We look at a few events that took place, and we look at a story of one of the companions of Imam Hussein and how that companion gave up his life defending the prayers. Yeah, so it'll show us how important prayers are in Islam. But before that, before we move on to our topic for today, we'll do a very quick recap on what you learned yesterday. Just to, a quick refresh to remind you of what we looked at yesterday. Right, so they're very easy questions, just 2 of them. So the first one is, who was the companion who went to Kufa as Imam Hussein's representative and was martyred there? Yesterday's entire topic was on him. We learned about his story and what happened to him and how he was martyred. Who was that companion? It was Muslim ibn Aqil, right? Second question, who was the companion who hosted Imam Hussein's representative? So Imam Hussein's representative was Muslim ibn Aqil. Who was the companion who hosted Muslim ibn Aqil when he came to Kufa? It was Hani ibn Urwa. Yeah. So these are the 2 companions you learnt about yesterday. Now we'll move on to talking about an event that took place in Karbala that, like I said, it will show us of how important worshipping Allah and our prayers to Allah is. So the day of Ashura, it took place on the 10th of Muharram, but it was going to take place on the 9th of Muharram when Umar ibn Sa'd, who was basically the leader of Yazid's army, he realized that Imam Hussein would not give his allegiance to Yazid. He wanted to start the battle, right? He wanted to start the battle on the 9th of Muharram. But Imam Hussein, he asked for another night before starting the battle, and that's why the Battle of Karbala took place on the 10th of Muharram, because Imam Hussein asked for another night. Now, what were the reasons? Why did Imam Hussein ask for another night before the battle? And there are a couple of reasons why that might have been the case. The first one, it could have been that Imam Hussein, he may have wanted to give Yazid's army a chance to reflect on their plan to fight the grandson of the Prophet, right? Because Yazid's army, they were going to fight Imam Hussein, right? And he wanted to give Yazid one last chance to think about what they're doing and what the result of their actions are going to be. The second reason is that Imam Hussein, he wanted to give his followers a choice to leave. Right? So on the night of Ashura, Imam Hussein, he got all of his followers together and he spoke to them. He thanked them for their support and acknowledged their efforts in helping him, and saying to them that he's really thankful that they're supporting him and they're very loyal to him. But he then also gave them the choice to leave. Right? He said to them that they are free to leave and they don't have to take part in the battle. And to make it easier for the followers to make that decision, Imam Hussein he blew out all the candles that were in the tent, right? So it became pitch black, so that if anybody wanted to leave, they could leave without feeling embarrassed. And when Imam Hussein he lit up all the candles again, he saw that no one had moved. Everybody was where they were. No follower of Imam Hussein wanted to leave. They all wanted to be there for the Imam. And in those companions, there was one companion whose name was Zuhair ibn Qayn. He said to the Imam, if it is possible to die once, come alive and die again, then we are prepared to die 1,000 such deaths to save Imam Hussein and his family from the enemies. Right? So Zuhair ibn Qayn, he was saying to the Imam that if we had to do this over and over again and die for you over and over again, we would do it. We would do it for our Imam. So that's the kind of companions that Imam Hussein had. They were so loyal and supportive to him. And the third, one of the most important reasons why Imam Hussein asked for another night is because he wanted to spend an extra night in prayers and to recite the Quran. This is something that Imam Hussein loved very much. This was so important to the Imam that he wanted one more night to be able to worship Allah and to pray to him, to recite the Quran, do everything that he could do on that last night. And this wasn't just Imam Hussein, all of his companions, all of his followers did the same. The last thing that they wanted to do, because they knew that on the next day, they might all be martyred, they might all die, right? And the last thing that they wanted to do before they were all killed was they wanted to, spend a whole night remembering Allah, praying to him, worshiping him. And it says that in some of the narrations, it says that the sound of prayers from the tents of Imam Hussein and his followers, they sounded like buzzing bees, right? Because they were so busy in worshipping Allah that's what you could hear outside the tents of the army of Imam Hussein. So this really shows us how important prayers was to them and how important it should be to us as well. Let's move on to talking about another event, another story of another companion of Imam Hussein. Right? So Imam Hussein, he had a companion called Sa'id ibn Abdullah al-Hanafi. Right? He was someone who lived in Kufa. So when Imam Hussein, he sent Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa, that's where Sa'id met Muslim ibn Aqil, right? And when he met Muslim, Sa'id, he pledged his allegiance to Imam Hussein through Muslim. He said that, I'm here to support the Imam and I want to, offer my support to him. So Muslim ibn Aqil, if you remember, Muslim ibn Aqil was sent to Kufa by the Imam because he wanted Muslim to find out what's happening in Kufa, right? So when Muslim had found that out, he wanted to send a letter to the Imam telling him about the situation in Kufa. So Muslim, he gave Sa'id a letter and asked him to deliver it to the Imam. Sa'id, he immediately agreed and he prepared for the journey and left Kufa straight away to deliver the letter to the Imam. Now, this wasn't just a simple task, right? At that time, it wasn't as easy. You had to travel through a desert, by a horse, and it was a long journey and very difficult. But Saeed, he didn't think about it at all. He was like, I have to do this for the Imam, and I'm going to do it. So he set out on this long and difficult journey. And it was very tiring and everything, but he was willing to do it. So he sets out in that journey. He has stops on the way, and then around midday he sees the caravan of Imam Hussein, and he gets really happy as soon as he sees the Imam. He greets him and hands him the letter from Muslim ibn Aqil that had the latest news from the city of Kufa. And then after that, with the Imam's permission, Saeed also joins the caravan of the Imam. And till the end, he stays very close to the Imam. He goes with the Imam all the way to Karbala. And in Karbala, he also gets martyred, right? He was part of the story that we looked at before this, where on the night of Ashura, he was part of those companions, and he also, like the rest of the companions, spent the night of Ashura in the remembrance of Allah. And then Saeed was also martyred on the day of Ashura. So how was Saeed martyred? Now let's look at that story of how Saeed was killed, right? So on the day of Ashura, the battle has started. The battle is going on. There are thousands of swords and arrows and everything being shot from everywhere. There's a battle going on, right? There's a fight. And everybody is there fighting, defending the Imam, defending their lives. And people are, from Imam's army, they're being made shaheed. And it's a situation of fear, and everybody is fighting for their lives. And it's a very what do you call it? It's a very fearful situation. But even in such a situation, it was the time for Zohar prayers, right? And one of the companions, he tells the Imam that the time of prayer has come. And even though everybody on that battlefield, they're fighting, and they're fighting for the sake of Allah, right? They're fighting to save the religion of Islam. They're fighting to protect their Imam. They are doing this for Allah as well. But even then, at that time, as soon as it was the time for prayer, Imam Hussein and his companions, they set out to perform their obligatory salah, right? It was Zohar and Asr is an obligatory salah, and it was the time for salah. So they set out to pray. Even at that time where they were fighting for the sake of Allah, the prayers were more important, right? So the time of prayer has come. Imam Hussein, he is leading the prayer, but Yazid's army, they don't just stop fighting because it's prayer time. Even though the Imam Hussein has set to pray his namaz, Yazid's army is still constantly shooting arrows towards Imam Hussein. And at that time, there were few companions of the Imam who were standing, as you can see in the picture, very similar to that they're standing in front of the prayer that the Imam is leading and defending the Imam. So Yazid's army is shooting arrows and spears, and these companions, they're taking all of these arrows and spears onto themselves, onto their body, just so they can protect and defend the prayers that are happening. Right? And among these companions who were there defending the Imam was Saeed, whose story we just looked at, Saeed ibn Abdullah, and Zuhair ibn Qayn, who we looked at, or who said on the night of Ashura, who said that if we had to die again and again for Imam Hussein, we would do that. So though Saeed and Zuhair, they were two of the companions who were standing in front of the congregational prayer that Imam Hussein was leading and taking on all of these arrows onto themselves, onto their body, right? So there were hundreds of arrows that Yazid's army was shooting on them. And as soon as the Imam, finished his prayers, Saeed and Zuhair, they were martyred, right? They died because of they had been attacked so much by Yazid's army. They died as soon as Imam finished his prayers. So this event, it shows us how important, even in that state, even on the battlefield where you are fighting for your life, even at that time, Imam Hussein and his companions, they did not give up their prayer. They gave up their life to save these prayers, right? So this really shows us how important prayers are in Islam. And that's how much importance we need to give to prayers as well, right? So even, how can we start to give prayers this much importance? Right, so just let's look at a very simple example. Suppose that you are, you're watching something on TV, or you're playing a game on your tablet, and you hear the azan and it's time for prayer. What should you do? Because your prayer isn't getting qaza, it's just the time of prayer has just started. Should you, finish off your game or finish off your show and then go to pray? Or what should you do? You should stop watching what you're watching, or stop playing your game and go to pray. These are little sacrifices. The companions of Imam Hussein, they sacrificed everything. We should try and, sacrifice these little things. It's okay if you're playing a game, you should leave your game, go pray, and then you can always come back to whatever you're doing, right? These are little sacrifices that you make for the sake of salah, right? Because Karbala really showed us how important it was to maintain our prayers. We as the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we say that we support Imam Hussein, we are the supporters of Imam Hussein, but we can't be true supporters if we are not praying properly and we're not praying on time, right? If we are not giving prayers that much importance, or we're just missing them, or we're like, oh, it's okay, I haven't prayed today, I'll just pray tomorrow, or oh, my prayers became qaza, I was just too busy, I didn't, so I'll just pray qaza namaz. If that's how we treat our prayers, then we're not giving prayers that importance. If you want to be a true supporter of Imam Hussein, then we need to do what he showed us. He showed us it doesn't matter what's happening, your namaz, your salah is the most important. It shouldn't be the last thing that you're doing in your day. It should be, it should be performed as soon as it's prayer time. If you can, you should really try your best to pray on time, and not only just pray on time, but also make sure you're praying properly. It shouldn't just be this thing that, Allahu Akbar, and you're just finishing off in like 2 seconds or 2 minutes. You should really pray properly, focus on what you're doing, try to make your prayers perfect, right? Because when something is important to you, for example, if you're part of, if you play a sport, if you want to be really good at it, or if you have a test or an assignment in school and you want to deliver something really good, you would put your effort into it, you would give it importance in your day, you would work really hard, you would work at making it perfect. Or if say you play a sport, you would keep on practicing, you would do everything to become better. And that should be the same thing with your prayers, with your namaz. It shouldn't just be something that you just try to finish off really quickly. Try to make your prayers perfect, learn the rules of prayers, and really put all your effort into making your salah beautiful. Yeah. All right, so moving on, let's look at another thing that Karbala teaches us. That Karbala, it doesn't only teach us the importance of our obligatory prayers. Karbala also teaches us the importance of Salatul Layl, right? They are the night prayers. Does anybody know what Salatul Layl is? Have you heard of Salatul Layl? So Salatul Layl, it's not an obligatory prayer, right? It's a mustahab prayer. It's recommended and has a lot of sawab, but it's not obligatory. And this prayer is usually prayed at night before the time of Fajr. The ideal time is before the time of Fajr, we pray Salatul Layl. And like I said, it's not wajib. But in Karbala, we see that on even Salatul Layl was given so much importance. For example, on the 11th of Muharram, after the Battle of Karbala has taken place and Imam Hussein and his family and his companions have been made shaheed, Imam Zainul Abidin, who is the fourth Imam, he sees Sayyida Zainab, who is the sister of Imam Hussein. He sees her praying Salatul Layl while she was sitting, right? So she wasn't, usually we stand and pray, right? So she was sitting and praying her Salatul Layl, and Imam Zainul Abidin asks her why she's, praying in a seated position. So Sayyida Zainab, she says to Imam Zainul Abidin, that everything that's happened, my brother has been made shaheed, all my family members, we've lost them today, and it's broken my back. So Sayyida Zainab, she was physically, emotionally, she was exhausted. She was that tired that she couldn't stand and pray. But even then, she did not give up her Salat al-Layl, which is, like I said, it's not obligatory. She doesn't have to pray it. But, she did not even give up a mustahab prayer because that's how much it means to her. That's how important that prayer is to her. Right? Even Imam Hussein, one of the last things that Imam Hussein said to Sayyida Zainab before he was martyred was to remember him in the prayers of Salatul Layl, right? So to remember him through Salatul Layl. That's what Imam Hussein said because he knew that this salah is so important to Sayyida Zainab and she never misses it. So even though she couldn't stand, she made sure she prayed while she was sitting. Right. So again, something that we should try and do in our lives as well. If you are praying your 5 daily salah every day, that's perfect. That's the next thing that you can do to become even better. You can start looking at how you can pray Salatul Layl, how you can make that an important part of your life. Yeah. All right, so that is a main topic for today done, and we saw of how Karbala taught us the importance of remembering and praying to Allah, and now we'll just do a very quick activity. It's based on what we've learned about today. So it's two very simple questions, and I want you to try and answer them and to see if you remember from today. So the first question is, why did Imam Hussein ask for one more night before starting the battle? So there were three things that we talked about on, 3 reasons that Imam Hussein might have, asked for one more night. First one, that he wanted to give Yazid's army a chance to reflect. That was one of the reasons. The second one was he wanted to give his followers the choice to leave. Right? And then the third, which was one of the most important reasons, was he wanted to spend an extra night in worship. Yeah, so those were the 3 reasons that we looked at today as to why Imam Hussein asked for one more night. All right, next question. So this is a scenario, right? And there are 2 options to this answer, and you have to choose one. So the question is, you are hanging out with your friends on a Saturday afternoon and you haven't prayed your Zohar and Asr prayers yet. You don't want to leave your friends to go pray, so you decide you'll just pray qaza of the prayers when you go home. Is this okay? Yes, because I'm not leaving my prayers. I will be praying qaza, so I'm not going to leave my prayers, so it's okay. Or no, I am committing a sin. What do you think the right answer is? So it is, no, I am committing a sin, right? Because you can't just leave your prayers just like that whenever you want, right? And it's not a valid excuse that you'll just pray because I'm too busy hanging out with my friends, or I don't want to tell them that I want to go pray or anything like that, right? Because it is a sin. It is a sin to miss your prayers intentionally or on purpose, and an excuse like that is not okay, right? So that's it for today. I hope you learned something new. Inshallah, we will see you back tomorrow. Khuda Hafiz.